The red button that you turn on. You got it. The new girl got it. It's already good.
I don't mess with that.
You're on whenever you're ready.
Am I ready? You guys ready? Ready to roll?
Are you ready, Drew?
No. All right, my name's Drew Messiano. I'm here with Rocco Swatik, Max Moros, Alicia Serrano, Andrew Gallagher, Matt DeCesar, and Matt DeSuma, and we're going to talk about HR planning today. My topic is employee-to-demand ratio. There's three important steps you need to take in determining this, which is reviewing the current staff that you have, forecasting demand for your company, and setting goals as it pertains to the ratio of employees to demand that you'll have in your company. The first step is reviewing your current staff. First, you want to count the total number of employees that you have. You also want to categorize these employees based on their skills and abilities as well as their experience and what positions they could ultimately fulfill in your company. The next step is demand forecasting. With this, and the third step is setting goals. It's important to strive for efficiency in your company's day-to-day operations, as well as create an environment in your company that's conducive to prosperity for your individual employees. And you also want to be keen on employee satisfaction. These three steps can lead you to determine how many employees you need and the level of experience your employees need in your company. It's important that you stick to the plan. You don't really want to cut corners or really deviate away from what you think is the appropriate amount of labor that you have in your company. Although you can do this to the best of your ability, demand forecasting is not always perfect. You have to be ready to adapt and change as an HR manager, and really just kind of move as the industry and the market moves in terms of having the right amount of employees. One way you can adapt is by gaining employees through the hiring process. You can hire entry-level employees just to get more hands on deck, or you can also go the route of trying to hire employees with more skills, education, or experience to fill higher positions or take on more work individually. Promoting from within is something that helps keep costs and is a cost saver and time saver as well for your company. It also gives you a way to reward high-performing employees in the company. Okay, so everybody knows Donald Trump is saying "Make America Great Again," but we know him originally for the "You're fired" statement. So in HR, you kind of want to, be a little bit more considerate and say things like, "I'm sorry, but we're going to have to let you go," or "The company's downsizing and your position is no longer necessary in the company." Downsizing is a very tasking thing, not only on the HR manager, but also in the employees of a company and the company as a whole. It's important to remember that your employees have emotions and feelings, and even the people that you do not downsize, the rest of the employees that stay within the company will be affected. Another form of adapting to the employee-to-demand ratio is hiring temporary employees. This has a lot less commitment and of time and money to these employees. These employees are also used to help you forecast demand as you go further and try new demand allocations. The most common form of temporary employees are seasonal employees. A lot of companies, such as the one we'll talk about being a grocery store, use them in times during holidays and just with increased demand. And they use temporary employees so that they don't have, like I said before, the commitment carried on throughout the rest of the year when they don't have the same demand. To make your job easier as an HR manager, it's important that you gain control of your company's turnover rate. Employees that either quit or want to be transferred can also create pockets of demand shortage in your company. And the best way to fight against this is increase the employee satisfaction, as I said before, as one of your goals to set. The company we're going to be talking about is a grocery store, and the first step is to review the staff that you have and understand what positions you'll need to fulfill and how many and what levels of employees you'll need to really cover all the bases in your company. You also need to understand the day-to-day shifts and how many cashiers you'll need on at one time, how many shift managers, how many department heads and department employees that you'll need every day throughout the processes, as well as the times of increased demand, like I said, about holidays. You'll need more cashiers and open lanes. And then goal setting, you want to make sure you have happy customers and happy employees. And you can do this by making sure your demand is set right. If you have a shortage of open lanes, you'll have impatient customers and overwhelmed employees that have too many customers for them to handle. My personal experience, I work at Ace Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical Supplies as a warehouse supervisor / managerial intern. We're currently facing a lot of these problems with employee-to-demand ratio because our company is in a time of extreme and rapid growth. Some of the obstacles we face is the evaluation of labor from our upper-level management. Their unrealistic perception of the ability of all of our workers. We hire a lot of part-time high school workers that aren't very dedicated and you don't have the time commitment, and our high turnover rate. Effects on me. As a supervisor, I'm in charge of efficiency in the warehouse. So I have my general manager raining down on me a little bit. I also work long hours, 10 to 13 days when I do work, and I do the jobs of multiple people, just about anything that needs to be done in the workplace, and this is because we don't have enough people hired. And now Rocco will talk to you about strategy.
Thank you. Once again, guys, I'm Rocco. I'll be talking to you about the strategy of the HRM plan, a little bit of the strategic components as well, and let's get it started. So, started out, you want to understand that the company, every company has its particular missions and values. So, whether it's a supermarket selling goods to their consumers or an accountant taking care of people's money, you want every employee to be on the same page and make sure that they're doing the right job and what the company is meant to do, I guess. Also, every business has a life cycle. There's an introduction stage of a business where the company is just starting out. There's a growth stage where it's starting to grow and develop as a whole. The maturity stage where it kind of hits its peak. And finally, the decline stage where it's kind of struggling to stay in business as a whole. The HRM has its own departmental missions. To brainstorm HR goals, values, and priorities is a good way to start this out. And it will show how the HRM department actually affects the company as a whole. Constructing a strategic plan for this objectives is very good. The plan has to be useful. It can't just be sitting in a desk. It has to be applicable. It has to be a guideline for your company. And also communication and teamwork is very important when constructing the strategic plan. When constructing a strategic plan, you also have to be a strategic partner. You want all your values to align up with the corporate values. Also, the human resource management should help the business complete their goals, like I mentioned. And let's say the company's focus was on social responsibility. Your HRM department should focus on hiring criteria. So like I mentioned before, involving people is very important. They should find out what skills the best employees have and kind of use these skills to find more people with them or develop other people's skills to match them. Understanding technology is another important aspect where a lot of companies are afraid to use technology, and because it might be expensive, but it is worth it. Finding the right technology for your organization is a very important part and makes your organization efficient and effective. So now we're going to relate some of this stuff to the supermarket. So the main objective of the supermarket could be to deliver great products to our consumers with great service. That being said, you want everyone in the supermarket company, the cashiers, the people walking around, to help the customers, make sure everything is going well around the supermarket and everyone is being helped. In my opinion, most supermarkets are in the maturity stage where they've kind of been around for a little while. Everyone is really everyone that goes there kind of goes there at the same time of the week, like buys the same amount of food. But something like Whole Foods might be considered like in the growth stage, where healthy foods is becoming more of a necessity for people, and Whole Foods does that for people. Some challenges in the supermarket might be standing out more than their competitors, whether it's with prices, quality, service, or reputation. Customer relationship management also, where it's unknown what the customers are looking for, or what new products they might be looking for in a supermarket. Using a strategic statement in your strategic plan is also very important. A strategic statement can look like HR's responsibility is to ensure that our human resources are more talented and motivated than our competitors. This will be accomplished by managing our turnover rates, compensation, and company sales effectively. Sometimes it's difficult to find some of the objectives, so a business can complete a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which really shows what's strong and what's weak about your company and what can be changed. When you find these objectives, you want to align your HR objectives with these certain weaknesses or threats in your company and to make them better. For example, a weakness could be lack of consistent compensation throughout job titles, where the HR department has the opportunity to review compensation policies and help the business overall. Once you find these objectives, you want to prioritize them. Make obviously the first things the most important things, and the last things least important. Involving management and executives in the organization is very important in this step, and once, like I mentioned before, the human resource management must work with the company and assist them. So prioritizing in a supermarket, it could happen anywhere really, whether it was with a cashier, he doesn't think he's getting paid enough, or the lines are very long. Either way, in a supermarket, you want to prioritize, make sure the most important things are dealt with first. Is Jim at the cashier really that important, or the line's important? Finally, we're going to draw up a business plan. The HR, in this step, the human resource manager has met with all the executives and management. Priorities have been agreed upon and the plans are ready to be developed. The manager should review the overall strategic plan to make sure that the business plan is good. Finally, my own experience, some strategy that I've worked for. I worked at a swim club in a snack shed. My boss was always very made it a priority that customers came first, whether it was an 8-year-old child or a 70-year-old man. Also, some challenges we faced maybe are long lines where you had to make sure everyone was working efficiently and together, or make sure the staff is on, like at the right times. And in conclusion, we went over to, first you want to align the human resource management objectives with the company objectives. Use a strategic statement to highlight those goals. Prioritize these objectives. Create a business plan. And that's all. Thank you guys. Next up we have Alicia with the selection process.
Hi, I'm Alicia Serrano, and I will be covering the selection process. This is important for companies as it helps them determine which characters they'd like to bring into their company and hire new candidates. This involves criteria development, application and resume review, interviews, test administration, selection, and of course the offer. So the first step would be the criteria development. This helps hiring managers know exactly what they are looking for in the candidate, especially specific requirements. In human resources, this is often known as KSAO, which stands for knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics. The next step would be to review the resumes. This can be challenging as there's often a lot of them. So one of the methods that they use is a program that can filter through all the resumes and look for certain requirements, especially the education requirements, so certain jobs may require a bachelor degree. There are some critical laws that should be adhered to. The first one is the Civil Rights Act of 1991. This states that a company cannot use a selection method that appears to be neutral but actually discriminates against a certain protected group. And then the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1991 make sure that they adhere to their disability and make reasonable accommodations for them. So the hiring manager must also consider whether or not they would like to hire internally or externally within the company. So benefits of hiring internally